Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. No, it's been longer than a week. It's been a little while. Last time I saw you, I was trying to play Project Zomboid. I had more videos. I deleted them again. I'll make more, but here's something that I wanted to go into because at the moment, though it doesn't look like it, I am in a terrible amount of discomfort and pain. And one of the reasons that I guess I like this right now and I like doing it is because I've been just going around and thinking a lot more and working a lot more. And when I say work, I'm just like trying to put my mind to busyness because apparently when I'm in pain, when I'm discomfort, when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm experiencing discomfort, long form but not spiking, many times I'll just think about stuff because it takes my mind off everything else. And doing this right now, if you can't tell, I'm looking a little bit more animated than normal. I'm sounding maybe the same, maybe a little bit more awake, and it's because I realized, though I am natural here, my natural is like a business natural. It's very dry, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I've had a chance to be around my old stuff for a very long time now. I was moving, so I was like, hey, what's valuable in terms of my past, and what can I allow just to become dust? Guess what? I used to be a very entertaining person. Very entertaining. From writing to speaking to everything. Old recordings, images, videos, such. I forgot about it. And I want to do a little bit more of that now, right? Why? If you're ever wondering why, at least for right now, if I don't do this, and I don't just think about stuff and create, you know what happens? Because after this, I'm going to do the same thing. I lie around. I use my fucking massager, which is always at my feet. And I hold it on some part of my back, my shoulder, until it finally loosens out. And you see how this one moved? That's the issue. My right shoulder is pulling on stuff in my left. You can even kind of tell by my... No, I'm not even going to go into that right now. But when I'm out of place, it literally looks like I'm a walking accordion with one side phased out. It's bad. It's bad. But that's the other best part about this that I forgot about acting. I just have to let you think that I'm in a great mood right now. And if I'm not in one, I want to present it such that I can laugh at myself and make myself feel better. And what's the way you do that? The way you do that is by talking about and being more and trying to actively, when the chance comes, think, do I want to keep watching me? And if I don't, I shouldn't. But believe me or not, that might actually be the worst thing right now because what I'm about to do is something very self-indulgent because I'm upset. Why am I upset? Well, let's take a look at this. I was going on Reddit a bunch. Yeah, I was going on Reddit a bunch. And I'm organizing stuff right now because Reddit is one of my favorite and least favorite places on the internet. I was raised and born in 4chan. Long time ago. I can't call myself what I used to be called there, but I joined in 2010, late 2010. And I think the OGs are 2008, 2009. So yeah, that was me. Maybe 2009. I was right at the beginning there. And Reddit obviously has had a long storied history of just being a terrible place. And one of the reasons it's my favorite place is because you can waste a lot of time there and find a lot of info. One of the reasons it's my least favorite place is because people exist and post and reply to things. Now, I'm actually going to bring my cam over here so I can manage myself. Hey, there we go. Check this out. So, I'm on Reddit. I come to the game design because every once in a while, if I need something that's going to piss me off, I just go to game design. And came across this text by user Ragnoki. Ragnaros and Loki. Ragnarok and Loki together, I don't know. And they ask, I don't want to assume your gender. Don't let me assume your gender. God damn it. I've been working on a small management game, running a book publishing company after playtest hours. Core loop is pretty boring. They have a video they go to where they play it. And yes, this is me. As you can see, these are all my recommendations. Yo, I want to watch that later. I've not had a chance to see it. But I'm right here, and this is their game. It actually looks kind of nice.
The player still signs the deal
Oh,
and
I'm not
creates
even
the
plugged
first
in right
edition
now.
of the book.
Shit.
During the first 9 months of the book's
Give me a
lifespan,
second.
customers will be willing to spend more
Yeah.
and will prefer a high quality
Will
hardcover
prefer a
pop,
high
pop,
quality.
pop. This is where the
There we
player
are.
will be able to make the most profit.
So you see where they're going here. Now we talk about looking at the game itself. Even though it's not the prettiest thing, it's got a balanced layout. It's got nice large buttons. It's familiar because it's got that Windows type of styles. And all the info that we've gotten here is actually pretty interesting when you consider it. In addition, a proofreading, a cover, a printing quality, so 3 different forms of quality, how much has been sold, how much is in stock, and then apparently all these other things that you can do in reference to it. I really liked it. But they were saying their core gameplay loop. And then I came back and I was right around 33. There we are. So they're like, yo, 2 main problems. It's easy for the player to spot authors who have high demands. And also, there's a perfect formula they come across. They say they're relatively easy to solve. Without that, my game is going to be boring. My first instinct was to make it more complex, variable, sales, system, blam. I love the simplicity, but I don't know how to replicate it. Every time I end up with something as much fun as TurboTax. Anyway, any suggestion, direction, or help would be greatly appreciated. So, I typed up this fucking gigantic post because I was sitting here and I thought about it and I was like, there was a Game Maker's Toolkit thing that just didn't go over this, but it gave me some ideas for dealing with an issue like this. I wonder if I can, and then sure enough, an hour later, and I'm sitting here like, what? Because check this out. I wanted to post this, and Reddit was like, yo, we have a word count. I'll just show you right now if they don't say you've been posting too much, because I literally just posted this 10 minutes ago. Ew, what? No, no. Delete. Excuse me. And then we take a look at that one. Yeah, no, so, okay, I don't know why it let me do that this time, but, so check this out. If I come to this, and I select just this here, I come to my word count page, yeah, 6,234 characters, 1,110 words, 52 lines. If I come to this one, I come over here, no! 9,000. Okay, earlier it tried to tell me something like I had 11,000 words in here. And it was like, yo, Reddit has a word post count of 10,000. So, regardless, that's why I'm here. I wanted to just go over the post because I thought I wasn't going to be able to post the thing in its entirety. But now that I can, let's take a look at that, because down in here, human wide tooth comb versus oh yeah, so it deformatted my everything. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this one there, but I am going to read my other one because I think it's worth reading. If you care about any of this, and if it sounds interesting, if you've been along this long, if you've been in this video this long, thank you. Otherwise, so yeah, we see their issue here. And I saw this one down here, which I obviously read the other comments first. I fucking hate you. In other words, it's simple. More variance equals more replay value and more fun. Variance. We'll get to that. But this guy down here, Guester X, as you say it. So it sounds like your main problem is there a clear dominant strategy quite quickly, and the game loop is repetitive, metronomic. I like monotonous instead of metronomic because that just means it keeps time well. It doesn't mean... Regardless. You can think about these things to help with that. When players are making choices in your game, what information about the consequence do you give them? Can there be choices where the correct path is different based on the game state or perfect formulas? Are there times in the game where the player can push their luck? What do you do to make the player deviate from the core loop? Choice or opportunities that pop up. And he says, these are really good pointers. No high risk reward, risk or bad. So, many times, especially now in game design, and not even just game design, development, expertise in general will normally come out with something like this Guester has produced. And it's actually not, those are good pointers. I agree with all of them. I think they're fantastic. Well, okay, I think they're good, not fantastic. Fantastic is a lie. I apologize for lying about what I think. In a case like this one, how did he come up with the idea of players making choice in the game? We took the perfect formula things, but what is the original perfect formula? Can there be different perfect formulas? We've just established that the perfect formula is something that has been discovered and is emergent. It's not by design. So, I would like to at least start in this case with the design of the original, or when they can push their luck. Anytime people have to put things in quotes, it normally means I have a certain understanding of this combination of words that I believe you should have a certain understanding of as well. And I'm expressly bringing information, I'm expressly bringing a highlight to this phrase because I believe it is one where your understanding may deviate from mine. But then again, so then what do we do about it? What's the actual definition? And then deviate from the core loop. It's good and it's fine, but in my personal work right now that I've been doing, I'm trying to get my game off the ground and really work on it, I found that this is a thought process you can only really take full advantage of if you're already a game designer, like this person is. It only makes sense. Why? Because the generation of those ideas is the problem. Not necessarily the generation of the results that they would demand or imply. It's the generation of the ideas. Not the result of can there be different choices where the correct path is different based on the game state. It's coming up with that idea of, well, the path through my game seems to be about this. My game states are X, Y, and Z, and I know that because I designed it myself. And my choices are influenced in my game like this, X, Y, and Z. Can I add to that, change it? My problem is they already have the X, Y, Z in their mind. We don't know what it is for the player to have luck in the game, period. And you could say, oh, but the game is playable and lookable, but we didn't develop it. Without playing it ourselves, and without being the game designer, you see, like, without being the designer and going in, they're nebulous. They come out of nowhere. So, let's go about my little response here. Oh! View! Show me a... God damn it. This is the one thing I wish. Just show me a full version of this. Can I, like... There we are. And then, for the comfort of reading... just let me change my fucking size. Oh, god damn it. I love notes, but I also hate notes. For this reason, I just want to right now select everything and make it larger. And they can't let me do that. They just can't let me do it. Photos, take photo, add sketch, lock it, share it. No. Okay. Damn. Nope, can't even do a zoom in. Let's see, view, sort of zoom in. That's because this has a very weird way to zoom in. Okay, what the fuck was that? There, okay, cool. There we go. So, There we are. There we are. There we are. There we are. I'm just formatting a little bit right now. I hope you don't mind me doing this. Also, I'm recording this all together. I'll probably edit it out and change things around so that we jump. All your games in terms of play position. Yep. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay. So, initially, I started out by saying, instead of a suggestion at this point, I would recommend you audit the core aspects of your game and go from there. This may be done in many ways, yet I'll only recommend 2 for brevity and efficacy. Right? It's a rather open statement. Let me give you 2 out of many possible. This is also one of my other favorite things. I adore this message. I found it doing some research on standards for technical documentation, and it's actually way back. I bookmarked it. The door problem is something I was going to talk about. Character word counter. Yeah, there we are. Because I know that phrase, the use of these words. The key words: must not, required, shall not, should not, recommended, may, and optional in this document are to be interpreted as described in RFC 2119. Oh! I love the way that's written. Holy fuck. It's so good. Oh my god. 1977, out of a bunch of Harvard University eggheads. Yo, fuckos! Here's how you should use these words. If anybody asks you, point them to my fucking RFC. It was the request for changes that they were doing back when the internet was like a couple of computers fucking lashed together. They would send these little... God, what a cool way to live. God damn it. Just to decide these things and work and make sure that they're codified and referenceable and look upable. 1997 and 2021, I'm able to go back and look at something some guy put up. Come on. So I love that one. If you want to use it, use it. I think it's the best. So we ask, what about your game is fun from 3 points of views? Yours, the players, and the viewers. My idea here is you, as the maker of game, can decide what is fun in your mind about the game you have. The game you have. The game you have. Don't change your game. Don't say about the game you want, the game you have. You mentioned loving the simplicity of old management games. If you played one of those games now, could you stop at a point and say, this is the feeling, mechanic, detail, look, sense of XYZ that I remember loving? You find those small moments and you capitalize them. How you capitalize is prototyping to see if you can translate that feeling in your mind to the game. And if not, you ask, what might I change in the prototype to move in the right direction? This prototype concept at the stage that Ragnoki is probably like a development build, but the concept is the same. So I just want to say, does that one make sense? What is fun about the game I have? So what's my concept of fun? And then can I translate it in the game? If it's not in the game right now, obviously, what am I trying to put in the game? Right? What is fun in my mind? And then if I look at my game and I say, this game doesn't have this that makes fun, I can go from there, right? So yeah, that's the way that I like it. Then as the player, as the enjoyer of the game, what fun do you have in actually playing the game? When something feels boring, how might you describe it? When I was a game tester down at Full Sail, which I would love to do again, I would go over to the UI UX lab that has their own little testing thing. I tested a bunch of different games. I signed NDAs. I took 4 hours of my day, 2 play hour sessions, and then 5 hours, 2 play hour sessions, and then 1 half-hour session at the end to answer questions like these. I put a lot of time into this when I was getting my education, and I think it's extremely important. As the player, you get to think fundamentally differently than the creator. How do you describe it, though? Because as the creator of the game, I will be able to have a very different way of speaking with it, to it, about it. But the player is going to be like, X sucks ass. Why? Because I gotta do B. B's shit. Can you give me more detail about that one? No, B's shit. Awesome. Example here then, looking at all the, by the way, that's saying like, in a case like this one, when you're trying to get to the answer, it's okay to be a little bit hyperbolic and or truncated in your responses, but you need to then say, okay, this was my response as the player, and this was my gut feeling. Now let's look at it from a more analytical standpoint, but, when again, looking at all the authors is a slog because of all the clicking, and I'm only looking at royalty values. If this is what was said, then you can A, see if there's a way to navigate the offers that is easy and engaging. It only has to be as engaging enough as to not actively be called a slog, right? B, see if clicking has to be the main mode of navigation, or should more keys be involved? Do you use the arrow keys to tab up and tab down? Can you move your selector independent from the actual window? Do I have to click on something or can I hit enter? When I hit enter, what button gets activated first? How does my... You see how just thinking about it this way, and playing the game, it's a slog to move through. What can I do about it? The questions, in my opinion, when you look at them that way, generate themselves. And that was my other issue with the other responses to this type of question. I always want to leave you, or I always want to leave myself, because forget you. I always want to leave myself, and I always work to leave myself to be able to generate a large amount of possibility from a very small amount of input. I need to be able to, because if I only have a small amount of input, then I've got to be able to wring it as hard as possible to at the very least be able to say, I tried getting a lot out of this and no, it's really tapped. There's nothing left. These should generate ideas for you and ways to think, and they should push you forward, and you should always be able to say the exact same, you should be able to approach it the exact same way every single time. Get them generating for you. Make your work that you've already done that's stopping you generate for you. Okay, do the values need to be expressly stated, or do the authors first say something like, I'm reasonable of problems, but I do my ideas the best. Yet they won't show you a price until you enter negotiations. Is negotiations a separate window? Is there a downside of leaving negotiations with no agreement? Are they time-based? In that example, the current game doesn't have anything about negotiations. Except it does. Remember, if we're looking at where we were in the game right here, this is a negotiation. I now realize that it's in there and then explicitly say, enter negotiations. In the game right now, what's entering negotiations or exiting negotiations? Is it separate? You see how like even trying to relay my thoughts causes the questions to come from one another. That's why I believe this would be a good way to kind of go about it. Dig in. Then we say, and then D, the option where if you come through and we've made that set statement, looking through all the authors of slog, make note of it, and then keep playing to see if something else stands out at first. Because that first thing stands out because that first thing is something you don't really want to touch right now. Let's say I don't really care about the authors of the slog. I know it came up, it's a reaction of mine, but I don't want to fix it. Keep playing, and then the next time that sentence comes up, say the sentence, write it down, look at it. Even if everything and it didn't take us much work, not even looking at the game to generate things about it. There should be a very little cost in an exploratory phase like this for the abandonment of material, ideas, points, reference points. Okay. Yeah, look through, play, see what's good, and then continue on. You always, even if you abandon everything that you've worked for, getting back to a new point or the same point should not be very difficult. You should always be able to do it quickly. And then, I say as the viewer. The viewer as a person seeing but not playing the game, what fun does the game present to you when it's played, huh? When viewing the game on its own, can you see what effect the player is having on the game? Or how the game is changing second by second? Can you tell by how the game sounds? When you look at games that you love the feel of, is it the color of Oregon Trail's red banner on that CD that gets you remembering the game, or is it the way the cursor makes a different sound based on what you click on? Or is it the atmospheric sound, effects, and lighting and light music that makes you settle in for a long game of management? Sometimes thinking this way can allow you to craft an atmosphere that can help you get lost to the gameplay or give you minor aspects of the game presentation to fix in order to see if refinement can make them feel fun. Sometimes it's not that a gameplay element, or it's not that a gameplay loop is unfun, it's just the way it either looks, feels, sounds, or behaves. If you're in a fighting game, and you fucking punch the person across the way. Actually, let's do this one. Take Street Fighter V, a decidedly fun game that a lot of people will say they play, they bought, they enjoy, they will continue to until 6 if it happens. If you take Street Fighter and then make it so that when you punch, instead of seeing a hit stun animation, the other character just freezes. And then all of a sudden starts moving again. Hit stun is such a crucial aspect of fighting games. It's such a crucial aspect of feedback that if you remove it merely by just change the animation, just make them do nothing, and see if the game feels as fun. It will not. It will not, it will not, it will not. Now I use that specifically because fighting games, in terms of the elements they're comprised of, do have a rather different type of strengths and weaknesses and applicable set than a management game like this one. The visuals matter in a fighting game far more because they are actually the gameplay mechanics, the core. How can you tell if you got hit? Look at your character's fucking face. Listen to the sound. If you've got a game that doesn't seem fun, trying to change some of the aspects of viewing the game can make it fun. Or can even tie you in to more ideas about, I never know if doing the sound design was this hard. I just need simple sounds. That gives you an idea that you may want to pursue, may not want to. It may give you some time away to think better about it. Regardless, this is something that could be good. And also, once more, if you realize, I said the viewer, but I brought it back down to this Oregon Trail, or remembering the game. It's not that the viewer is not a player, it's just that the viewer may be a player. They aren't playing right now. They're a passerby on the street. They're a person watching who doesn't want to wait in a line for 6 hours at E3. That's who, and what they are, the viewer. So I found much of game design and development in the contemporary climate seems to favor a somewhat procedural, yet malleable and human way of thinking about breaking down problems. Wow, English. So that's why I presented those options first. GMTK, who I'm going to get into and possibly make a video about. Brackies. Architect of Games. There are a whole other bunch of ones that I'm now forgetting, of course, when I need to read them out. But this host of community-driven yet identifiable learning environment is something that has come up in the modern era. It's the YouTube diploma type of thing. But also, the responses that they have to give have a very, very different type of delivery to them. They rely on not only the graphics and the sound, but the actual words and the person saying the face and how it gets shown in there. These things are little videos and such. They are not dry technical documents, and that's why that malleable and human makes a lot. You've got to give somebody a phrase they can repeat, which allows them to remember other things about the video or unstuck themselves. My way, though, is the second option. It's the one that I personally use. I personally have kind of developed-ish, and it's more fine-grained. But when you're solo developing, like I said, I need to make a lot out of a little. I would say audit your game in terms of its perceived flaws from playtesting, using my experience, then using a pair association of your game's compositional elements, change elements on a scale progressing from small to large. If you notice, this wording and phrasing does not sound like a Brackeys or a GMTK. I like to make technical documents readable, but when I need to go through it myself, fucking technical the shit out of me. Just do it right. So, and then I go through and I explain. A paired association here means that two elements are selected, and the result of one must be viewed through the association of the other. The compositional elements, by the way, which I should have put in, the elements are images, text, sound, code. I'll leave that at that. The changing of the code would either be done in the dev build or prototype. So what I mean is these codes and these changes, once again, need to be prototyped out or put in somewhere. You make the idea, but then you have to implement the change. So I took his quote. There's a sort of perfect formula to optimize sales that can be applied to any book regardless of genre, quality, or fan base. Starting with an expensive edition first and switching after a few months to a cheaper version is always the way to go. That is their quote for line for line, inch by inch, step by step. Right there, perfect formula to optimize sales. Right there, always the way to go, not misquoted. Now, I took that and I said, that's a perceived flaw that came by the result of playtesting. Now I take any two random elements. The random ones I got, images and sound. And I said, okay, well with images and sound, how can I best use the association of images and sound to go about this problem? From a glance, it seems difficult. Yo, fuck that. Literally, think about it for a half a second. If you're with me now, pause, think about that. Images and sound. What can we do? Nothing? Drop it. I decide to go to the other two elements left, code and text. I start out with 4. They're the base elements of any and every single game, making the game, the constituent parts. And I had already selected 2, so I had 2 left over. Immediately now, I know that there's some emerging perfect formula in the gameplay. My calculations in the code are probably the root cause, but I need some way to look at my code through the text, and that's what I mean by the paired association here. Many times, people will focus on an individual element or they will identify elements either incorrectly or imprecisely, and that can lead to issues down the road. In this case here, we always make sure that I'm not just selecting the elements and then having them in my pocket. It's like I'm looking at one element with the other in front of it as a lens, because a game in its core or a game in its expression will always be at least some combination of these 2 elements. The easiest one, obviously, is code, because you can't have a game without code, but then board games exist. Fuck you. Now, regardless, Yeah, you thought I was talking about just video games? No, I mean like technical, let's get general. But let's go through. Through it. I'm with text and code immediately. So, because I need to look through my text, I would look at the game and my stated flaw, and then to me the words expensive edition came out. Remember, I just used the words, and I think regardless of my code, if the text is working properly, I can always see the result of the variable or the variable value, because the text on my screen is going to show it to me in numbers. I can tell expensive and edition because I'm told. I can always tell what expensive editions are. Fuck, you can tell this is me. So what happens if I don't change my code but change the textual representation of it? What if I look at my code through the text? I took a screenshot of your game and labeled the numbers here. I did. So fuck, we're just gonna follow because it took me to an imager gallery that I made specifically for this. And yeah, I should have had his image open already, but I don't know where it's gone. So this is the image here, and this is the part in the game. Let's actually look at it on this one because it'll be easier, and I know where to look. So I pointed to 3 different places. Is my demo pro working? Nope, it's not. My demo pro isn't even on. Okay, fuck. So I pointed to 3 different places. One, this little quality 2 over here. This is an image from the game, by the way. Nothing changed, nothing edited, nothing different. It's the exact same thing. 0.33 seconds, 0.33. Quality, the phrase "this offer is too low," and then the "I would be willing to accept 600 advance and 29% royalties." Those were the 3 things that I pointed at. 1, 2, and 3. And I addressed them here. So, concept is I took my 2 elements and I'm looking at code through the text. Let's see how that could come out in 3 different ways. First, I look at and say, yo, is quality an int or is it a string? And where in my code do I display/calculate the result? So if you want to follow along how I got there, which you shouldn't need to, but when again, shouldn't is a loaded phrase, I apologize for making some sort of assumption about you. Taking the amount of time to understand is no issue. Please do, stick with me. Looking at the game, I see the word quality and 2. That allows me to think int or string because that's just a natural question to ask, and it also drives me to look at my code. So immediately, I've done what I set out to do. I saw something I could see and it brought me to an issue in the code, or an idea in the code. Then I can take it further. Does my character know from experience, public opinion, or the offer's publicist? Where did that come from? That was just throwing out ideas there. How does my character know any of that? But then, let's actually bring it back and once again just talk about text and code. If I change this number to a question mark, how does that change the game? If I change the visual representation to a question mark, how does that change the game? In that moment, regardless of what your game does, think, in this case, from the player's perspective, what does that change? Then it can lead you to ask, by looking at it once again, can I change text displaying in-game on the fly with code? Once again, I saw something surface level, but I know that I need to relate it to code somehow, and To me, now this is the part that I mean generative, to me, my natural instinct was that reply. I want to change text on the fly, in code. Somebody else might not come up with that specific one, but is that because they can't link the idea of the text to the code? Or is it just because when they linked it, they went somewhere else? The point is the link should be easy. Your location and where you end up should be wildly different just depending on you. The visual representation could be changed to a host of different things, but each time I change it, I always consider what change in the code drives it. I pair the association. By making the association something small like why can, this is supposed to be all caps, why can I see what value the equality is? Can be linked to what system am I using to control the generation and presentation of text in-game in the game window, and how can I get it to do something else? I want to rewrite that sentence, but I will not, just for my own sanity. And to say, let's move along. So, then next, what variables or qualities determine the responses from authors and publishers? Let's take a look at that. Where am I looking? A 2. This offer is too low, is all it says. I look at that and I say, what calculation can be done? How is it getting that? Code-wise, from what I see, how is that coming up there? Is it always a guarantee that they will tell me using numerals and letters? Once again, that's a little bit of a jump. Kind of like, do they have personalities? Sounds a little nebulous. Let's make it concrete. What about if the author/publisher starts off with a generally clear statement that then becomes more vague as we negotiate, like their patience is changing? So this time, you see, I followed my trail off. Before, up here, when I was like, oh fuck, I jumped in places. Sorry, I was looking at number 3 and I meant to be on 2. Man, that's bad. Sorry. We're up here. Fuck you. But it still comes to the same place and you'll see why. What variables, qualities determine the responses from authors and publishers? Okay, so I'm in the same place. Do they have personalities that drive their ability to be bargained with? I was trying to relate it actually to number 1 here by saying, does my character know from experience? That one is all tied together. Sorry, I went too fast. But like so, can they be bargained with? Right here, I took my expansion, this just thought. Technically, it's not related to the code or to the text on screen, it just appeared. And I say down here, to follow it up, if so, a statement like "that's insane" could be seen as positive from an up-and-coming starving author or negative from a long-established pompous author. And this could be checked using a prestige variable that takes in-game time as represented in the upper right-hand corner with the month and year, something I can physically see that's in the game. I didn't make that up. I didn't even have to add in that feature. It's already there. And uses it to calculate the author's age, their first published book, and then calculates their successes and failures up to this point in order to identify their influential age, how long they've been a published author, and their attitude, how positive and negatively they will react to unfavorable, favorable offers, starving versus pompous, up and coming versus long established. Once more, we started with the code, and I viewed it through the text. So that one, the first time, it's a little like chunkier. You can really see where things meet and bump against each other. The second one down here, it's the same idea, but instead of trying to generate more things and go deep into the code, I liked the idea that came up, and I was just like, hey, if I was going to do it in code, then I would probably say, 1, we're representing it with a string, and then 2, I came up with this idea of prestige as a variable, and because I'm saying checked, I might have a true false on that, so that could be an if-then statement, and then I say takes in-game time, and I see time is in quotes, remember what those quotes mean. This word, in your common context, I'm trying to take a different concept of, so you need to redefine this word. And I say that redefinition is represented in the upper right-hand corner with the month and the year. So time, with those quotes, you should understand as I'm just referring to the month and year represented, right? Do you see how all of this together, just by looking, naturally kind of flows out? Now, did you come up with the idea of prestige and using time and age and no, but what did you come up with? Like, do the same process. If we look at that same thing, or response from the author and publisher, the text representation has got to be decided from the code. The first thing we can do is say, hey, what variables and qualities? This next step, this next idea, if you can't or don't come up with kind of like oh, let me know. Because the other issue with getting deep into either development or something, especially the games, but also with me personally, this thought process is a development of mine. If I get too into it and I'm like, everybody sees it this way when nobody else has seen it, that's fucking shit. If you don't see it that way, what do you see? And two, I would love to know, because it helps me. And then number three is like my synthesis one. I start simple. What calculation is done to see what are the acceptable values that the publisher or the author will offer? Let's look at this here. 600 in advance, 29% royalties. Sorry, that's when my core moves around. I take an air and it makes me like burp and shit. So, what calculation is done to see what acceptable values the author/publisher will offer? There's always a guarantee that they will tell me using numerals and letters. This is where that one came in, because I looked at it first, I saw the values. I came in and I said, hey, what calculation is done? That puts me in the code. This next one is more of like a philosophical question. If you noticed, on number 1 here, they're like expansion ideas, but I don't really go into it at all. I go right back to the visual. Number 2, I hit that expansion idea, but then I take like this specific example and I go into it. With number 3, this idea is less about like, this idea right now is a player expectation. Can I rely on the game to make my job easy? Up here you could say, oh, this is me relying on the game, but I'm looking at like the authors and publishers. You could say, what can I do with these variables that are already existing and add to them? This one is like saying, yo, with these ones that are already existing, how can I modify their output in terms of it? Do I want to modify that gameplay aspect? It's a little bit nuanced in the difference, but it points to a slightly different vector, right? And then it goes with, like, what about the author and publishers? What about if the author and publisher starts up with a generally clear statement that then becomes more vague as we negotiate, like their patience is changing? Now, I want to bring this up because in casual reading, it seems to follow like the others, but there's once again nuance to this last one. A big amount of nuance. This, I believe, is the first time where we are presenting a new idea through the form of a design-based question. Is that true? Now let me check, because if it's not, I'll let you know. This is what I've been, right now my counter says I've been doing this for about 49 minutes, 50 minutes. The video will be far shorter, but yeah, this is what I get into. So the first time, we're asking questions specifically about the code with like concrete, display, calculate. Those are verbs that are used in there. and it's my code is displaying calculating. My character that was there, if I change the number to a question mark, so this is like concrete. And even this one, can I change it on the fly with the code? Very concrete. The game, the fly, the code. The second time I come through, variables and qualities already were concrete. They have personalities, less concrete. Then I take the concrete, that's insane, and I come up with that example. So we bring it back down. This one here, every other pair of questions has some sort of concrete nature. This one down here is taking a step further away from concreteness before coming down to concreteness. But even in the concreteness, see how many times I really talk about like the variables or the code or anything like that. Example, at first they say, that's insane, you better find a couple hundred more. Then they say, are you listening? Change your offer. And then they say, one more chance, you swindler. Each statement gives direction, but in the same way, an irate person can become more and more curt following the negotiate. But in the same way, an irate person can become more and more curt. The following negotiation can go wrong if you aren't making the right choice. A player sees the words, that's insane. So, this seems like either an extreme positive or an extreme negative case, but the request for a couple hundred more means their disposition is negative, and we don't deal in hundreds of % royalty, so we must be talking about the dollars. I believe that the player should be able to follow this line of reasoning to try and increase their dollar offer, and the underlying code should also be receptive to this type of change. At what point did I stop talking about the textual representation on the screen? Right at the beginning. I looked at the representation and I asked about the calculation. That puts me in the code. Asking about if it's a guarantee, whether they use numbers and letters, doesn't actually take me to what's being shown on the screen. I didn't come back out. What if they start off with this that becomes that? I didn't mention the code again. Because I'm comfortable with this mode of thinking, there are many more complex ways that you can kind of apply it, and also to different elements that aren't in the game. That's like the next step of this. But also you see why subtly the way it comes out sounds kind of the same. Now, once again, this is an active. If you have reached this point in the video, and what I'm saying makes some sense, or follows logically, please tell me. I am requesting that you either pause or at the end, take your time and help me. Because with this, if I can help, if this sounds good, and I help you and you tell me I'm helping you, then guess what? I can do more with this. But I need to know if all this time of me just sitting and talking to myself and looking at other people's words and thinking about it actually produces something. Because right now I've got a lot of words. I got 9,000 some words, but I don't know for a single fucking second if it actually helped another person. Helped this person, the person who posted. Let's see if I have any, yeah, we'll leave it there. Anything back? No. Any votes? No. Why? Because it was a day ago. Nobody most likely will see this one again, except for you. So, sorry, that's me going off there. But to me, the reason why is because it makes sense. And when I looked at it this way, it just seemed so easy. It seemed difficult to find a place and a way to stop coming up with ideas. So that's why this last sentence means a lot. I believe that the player should be able to follow this line of reasoning. We're talking about a player experience and gameplay now. We've left talking about what's on there. to try and increase their dollar offer. And the underlying code should be receptive to this type of change. But how right now will I be able to tell if the underlying code is receptive? If I can see it in the game. Why? Because I can't look at the code in my system without viewing it through its associated element. And what was its associated element that we started with? Text. You see, it took this whole thing, I want it to wrap itself up in a little fucking bow. I want you to always be able to have that mic drop at the end of thinking about something, right? What was going on in my game? Here's what I changed. Here's how I started to change it. Here's how I thought about it. Why did I think about it? Because of this thing in the code. How was I made aware of it? Because I looked up there. Like, where did we start? Right up there. I want you to be able to do it all. So that's my idea. I developed and prefer this type of approach because it allows you to potentially make a large number of changes to your game by looking at a very small material. Sorry, after this I'm gonna go and like fucking stretch, because if you can't tell, I've been sitting for too long, and now I'm like, my stomach is just fucking burping at me, and it's not my stomach, it's my move. But so sorry, let's read it again. A very small amount of material for input, and it discourages getting too deep into one aspect of the game, because if you aren't looking at the association between at least two, you're taking a different approach. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes you really do need to just go in and look at that one glaring problem and fix it. But if you're searching for an answer, this is how you generate ones to find. And that's the other best thing that I want to bring up here. You're not finding answers. You're not coming across them by luck or by fortune or by some sort of random variable that you didn't introduce. Right? What it is that it's a system for generation. You're making things. And then you're discovering or you're finding whether or not they work in whatever you have. But you are not finding things to put in. There's time and places for finding things to put in. Mood boards, word association, speaking of, mind maps, color palettes. There are so many places where you can find stuff that's just existing and you trip over it and work it in. But in this case, I want you to generate what's being found and also be able to use it. So, the last part is it encourages the abandonment of what doesn't work. If I had tried to stick with images and sound, a lot of effort might have been wasted. My system allows for you to always have an alternate place to start. Just use the leftover elements, or keep one and change the other. Overall, which mode you take, whichever mode you take, this is an age for management games like none other. I believe that one. From Papers, Please on, the idea of management is extremely malformed. And I say malformed just because when you see management, when you think management, you think back to the lemonade stand game that they had on Cool Math Games. That's effectively all this guy's game is. When you really look at it, that's all any management game is, and I think that's really telling. Me, at 29 now, almost 30, if you tell me a management game, if you ask me about one, I'm going to go back to the one that I played in 6th grade and say, that's it. That's like the pinnacle. And I think for a lot of other game designers and developers, those little games are. And if they're not given the credence they should, it can be a little bit of like, well, a management game is a very strict definition. No, it's not. But how do you find out how to challenge the definition? I would say break it down into its elements and compare and go. So yeah, I wanted to, with the full expectation that neither one of these anythings get viewed, I just need to put it out there. Because if it can help you, once again, tell me. Don't do yourself a disservice and don't abandon me. If you want to abandon me, stop at the earlier part of the video. Forget it. That's fine. But let me know. Is there anything else you can speak of? Oh yeah, just something as a fun that I didn't do before, but it just occurred to me. Because initially I thought my system was so good. When I started writing this post, one of the reasons that I really took time to write it, when I started writing it out, I really did randomly get image and sound for this question. And I tried to work through a couple of resolutions and I was like, bull fucking shit, this is actually impossible. Are my elements bad? Then that was the part where I made up, just drop them and go back, and I switched and it worked out. But if I was to go back and try to, it's 9,000 characters. It's barely a page, right? This is barely a page worth of information. So I should be producing a lot more. Oh yeah. So think about this, just this little thought experiment to show you how if you try to go about this system the wrong way, the system encourages the abandonment of certain things. Just drop them. But if you don't, or if you have an issue, this might not be a good system for you personally to use. If we say there's a sort of perfect formula to optimize sales that can be applied to any book, regardless of genre, quality, fan base, starting with an expensive edition first, and switching after a few months to a cheaper version is always the way to go. I keep getting them, they keep staying the same. Alright. Sometimes game design just takes you along like a smooth ride. Okay. It's 5:30. Yeah. Let's try to approach this through the lens of sound.
The player still signs the deal and creates the first edition of the book.
So now, do you know what I just noticed? By the way, I'm playing right now. Do you know what I just noticed? It seems like there's no sound in this game. Man, if some fucking idiot was trying to develop an argument around sound and how it could really get you, no matter what her resolution, this would be a pretty shitty one to go with.
First 9 months of the book's lifespan, customers will be willing to spend.
Yep. So, let's start with that. And the second part is images. Images and sound. So I've got sound. How do I view the images through sound? And that's the other part about this. I like it because it kind of sounds like a Zen cone, but for game development and game design. If you don't know what a Zen cone is, fucking get learned. I will not learn you right now because I am too afraid to do a standard Google search while you can see my screen. And yes, I could black my screen right now, but fuck you, I'm trying to get this video over. So, it's like a Zen cone. If you don't necessarily know what I'm trying to say, it sounds like I'm being very, very vague and mysterious. To first understand what the sound is, you must see the image through it. By the way, that's actually Tai Chi right there. We've got an opening. I forget what this first one is, but then you bring around to that. You're supposed to have that in line. You're supposed to bring it back in and go like that. And then there's something like grabbing the... You can't even see. You have over here, you'd fucking like grab the swallow's tail. That fucking hurt like shit. That's why you stand when you do this thing. When you do the swallow's tail. Or grabbing the swallow's tail, plucking the swallow's tail. I don't remember the names of them, but yes, that was actual Tai Chi. When I make references and jokes, especially when I try to do an impersonation of something, I do so with usually a very good knowledge of that, and usually I want my impersonation to be not spot on, but like recognizable from a mile away to say, I see what he's trying to impersonate. It's not good, but I see it. Sorry. So, if you really wanted to go about it, you could say it this way. My game has no sound. What can I see that would allow me to produce a sound? What image? And once again, I was thinking of saying like visuals as an element, but text and images are distinct. And if I say visuals, you can kind of nebulously put them together, or you can estuary them together a little bit. When I say estuary, I mean when you take two distinct items and then you find the common associations between them, at which point something that you identify may or may not easily, or more or less easily, be associated with either side. It's an estuary. Things are flowing, but at some point you can tell distinctly it's one or the other. That's what I mean by that. So you can kind of estuary those together. My original one stands though. I don't have sound. So regardless, I started with sound. What can I see? What image is being displayed that I think should produce a sound? So, 5 things I see immediately. 7 things. 4, 2, 1. 4, 5, 6, 7. Any one of those has to sound like what it's showing. So I need to find a sound like a flipping calendar, a publishing piece of paper, a door, some finance, dollars and cents. Wait, what was I supposed to write something in the first place? This perfect formula. You see how difficult that is? I got something, and I was able to view one through the other, but it didn't address what my issue was. So now I had taken a bunch of time using the elements in the system that allows you to use the elements, and I was able to make some products, but it didn't help me at all. Is there a way I could answer this question through those two? Is there a way? Yes. Check this out. So, what do I hear? I hear nothing. Okay. So I once again see the words expensive edition, because that, right now, perfect formula and expensive makes me think calculation, code, money, rating. And I like to center in on money and rating, because I think those are easy ones to tug on here. So I would say, with the perfect formula and the expensive edition, what sound tells me that an edition is expensive? When I think of an expensive an edition as a book, I think of one of those old ones that has that big fucking lock on the side. Do you know what that looks like? If I was to say like a Harry Potter book that has a lock on the front of it, and you need a big ass key to get it out there. You know how that sounds? And there's like that little wispy sound of old paper creaking that kind of sounds like, and it's the leather settling. That's what it sounds. That's what expensive sounds and looks like to me. Right now, do I have anything that can sound and look like that expensive book when we're doing the deal? And right now I'm just clicking through to see what does it look like. We phone and negotiate. We bring
As
them
you
up.
can see on this example, the author has very high demands. The amount.
Oh, now that's something I didn't even think of. What does a phone call sound like that doesn't want to get picked up? It rings for a long time, right? And while it's ringing, what if I know that the phone doesn't want to be picked up and I can see how close it is to not being picked up? Here's my idea. Right now, offers that are expensive will do two things to clue you in before they come up. One, when you click on the negotiate button, you'll hear the phone ring, but it will continue to ring. So you'll hear a longer amount of silence than you would be used to, which tells you there's more weight on this line, as well as seeing the phone as it's calling vibrate and then change colors from this green to a red like that one. If you can't tell, I'm trying as hard as possible to not be it me, but like I'm looking at what's here and thinking about it and putting it together. So right now, I'm not going to change anything about my code, but I'm going to see if I could prototype something that has the phone call negotiate, or the negotiate phone call correspond to the expensiveness of the edition. How do I know it's corresponding? Because the phone is turning green to red. But then how do I know why the phone is changing from green to red? I know it's ringing because I can hear it ringing, and it's ringing for longer than normal. Can we prototype that? Change nothing else about the code. But when I click that negotiation button, there should be a sound for when the phone rings, and there should be an animation. Those animations and sounds should link to or should associate with how expensive or not the book is. Prototype it, work it, see if it's good. If not, drop it, go to the code. If it does, let's fucking go! You can't probably see my expression right now. Can you see my goddamn face? So this is why this stuff is so fucking exciting to me. That works, right? Did I arrive there from magic? Does it seem impossible the way I got there, like I made too many jumps? I want to show you step by step right now. I've been speaking for a couple more seconds. If a new person walked up right now, how would I explain what I just wanted? I would show them this screen. I don't even need to show them the game being played. I say, yo, see this little green phone here right now? Every single time I click it, it starts a negotiation. But I want to be able to tell whether or not the expensive potential, I want to be able to tell whether or not this is a potentially valuable call. Because when I click on that phone, it's going to vibrate and change color, and also you'll be able to hear how long the ringer takes. and that keys you up for being able to go into the game. What did I just do there? I explained what I want to implement. I didn't tell you about my problem. I didn't tell you about the elements specifically saying, well, this textual element and this sound, this audio element. I didn't do any of that. Can they understand what I'm about to do, what it should look like, and why I want it that way? Bam. So, once again, to reiterate, if you wonder why I just got so excited, if a random person walked up and asked me about a game that I'm not working on, that I haven't developed, that I don't know how works, and that I just have a very passing understanding of in one frame, can I start telling you about issues, resolutions, and new ideas? Yes. How do I do it? I pick any 2 elements. Now you can choose more, but the more elements you choose, obviously, the more difficult and the longer the chain becomes. Right now, technically, in that last case, I was using 3 because I knew regardless, you're going to end up in the code. I said this already. Regardless, you're going to end up in the code. But I gave myself a coding task to do because I tied it to the click of the button. Now, you may have heard that and not thought much about it, but me personally, when I heard that, I was like, I'll do the jump from click to visual first, and then I'll associate that whatever thing I get in the code right there, I can then associate to the audio, because the audio has to be associated through the visual. So like, you see how the more you add in, and you can do like, I need multiple audio elements that are expressly being separated right now to relate to one another. Cool, fine. You've got to relate those audio elements to some other element in order to get this to work. So that's why I'm so excited here. I could tell you about it. I could pick up ideas about this game and run with it. If I could prototype this game out myself so that the functionality is all the same, then guess what? My prototype is expressly going through and removing the associations so I could bring them back up, right? Because I don't have to use that face or this name or this layout. I could. But all I need is just to know its element and how I have to interact with it and how I can view that element through another. That's all I need. And start me in any random fucking place and I can do it. So I walk my statement back from before. Not too far though. Starting with something, having the unfortunate start of images and sound in this system, in one case, is extremely helpful because it tells you what not to work on. I like the idea of having the ability to determine if something gets abandoned or not. Not guaranteeing its abandonment, don't get me wrong, because I realized I might be sounding that way. Not guaranteeing abandonment, but yet presenting the option to allow for abandonment as viable and in many cases active and essential towards a positive outcome. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's a bunch of shit right there. But I'll stick with that one. If you're really, my system seems to be such that, or at least I would like to say, an adept usage of my system should be such that you can never get stuck. And if you do get stuck, it's for a fundamental reason. If I don't have sound in my game, period, and I try to view things through sound, you saw how it could work, but you also saw how it kind of necessitated me going an element further. I had to step into code. I was gonna land there, but I had to view it. I had to get a additional target through my lens, an additional subject through my lens, in order to bring life to my completely missing one. It's possible, it just takes a little bit more finagling and finesse. And that, if you can't tell, is what I want to avoid, because it's the whole reason why I have a system like this, so I'll look into it more. But yes. Yeah, if you've made it this far, if you're with me in this video, one, let me know. Just let me know. How you doing? You okay? I hope you are. And two, thank you. It's different. I don't post stuff like this, really. I'll try to be posting more games and such, but I will only do what I can do without excess pain or distress. And this form of video is the easiest one to do, because if I delete it, it's not like I'm deleting a bunch of takes. I only did it in one. All the way though. No matter who you are. No matter where you are. No matter how you're doing. I hope it only is better from here. Wow. Bam.